All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga Flow. I am going to start class sitting in a chair this morning. You can also come down to the floor. You might like to have two blocks close to your space or something that you can place your hands on, maybe books or your hand weights flipped straight up and down. I have my yoga strap, a hand towel or a blanket, and two small pillows. So that's a lot of props today. So I know whatever you have at home, if you would gather that, and then just come to a seated position and find good posture and sit up tall. Now, something I learned from Judith not too long ago is that she finds when she sits in a chair that her feet don't touch the floor comfortably, and that it brings her out of good posture. So I thought, well, let's see what happens if I put my blocks down on the floor, because my chair's a little bit high, and I put my feet on them. Ooh, this feels actually quite nice. So we can adjust the props that we have a lot of different ways with our blocks. So I'm going to use my blocks for just a bit as we sit tall and start to bring your awareness internally. And we are going to do a modification of our breath of joy, but today we're going to do it very slow with arm movements to warm up the shoulders and the upper back. So let's just bring our palms to our heart center. Breath of joy has 3 inhalations followed by 1 full exhalation. So we breathe in, breathe in, breathe in. And when we breathe out, we open our mouth and you can make a sound if you'd like. So we'll do one more. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in. All right, don't worry about the breathing as we learn the arms. So your arms will come forward, out, up, and down. Forward, out, up, and down. Now, when we bring our arms down, we're just going to curve our back and round our shoulder blades open. That will be our exhalation. So as we come up, we breathe in and reach forward, breathe in and reach out, breathe in and reach up, breathe out, and a little C curve in our spine. I'll lead you through that one more time. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, and breathe out. Okay, for 90 seconds, I'd like you to do this on your own with no guidance at your own pace. 45 seconds. Two more rounds. One more round. And then just sit up with a nice long spine. Set your hands onto the top of your knees. So if you're just joining us after the intro, you can be doing this sitting in a chair, or on the floor if you'd like. Let's take the right hand across to the left knee. And then if you're using a chair, you can take this left hand and bring it behind you to maybe grab part of your chair. And let's twist over to the left side. And then keep your twist to the left, but turn your head only to the right. So this is our spine or our spiral twist. So we have our belly button and our chest rotated left, our shoulders also, but our head rotated to the right. And then slightly drop your chin down toward that right shoulder. So we've got rotation of the neck and a little bit of forward flexion. And let's bring the head back up, bring it to the neutral position. Place both hands on the knees, take an inhale. And as you exhale, reach across, reach behind, and twist. And our twists are always very gentle, especially when they're at the beginning of our practice. We don't want to grab something and really torque our spine. Now let's turn the head only to the left. A good rule of thumb as we're working on a twist is to try to increase the length of the spine as we breathe in, and then try to increase slightly the twisting action as we breathe out. Now drop your chin down slightly, looking down toward that shoulder. Still breathing deeply. Try not to breathe shallow into your upper chest. And bring the head back to neutral and the spine back to neutral as well. Sitting tall. We'll take the left hand down toward the floor, or you can hold on to your chair a little bit for support, and we'll sweep the right hand up. Now I want you to keep your right sitting bone down as we side stretch. And I want you to think about not collapsing into the left side ribs. So all we're doing is trying to lengthen the right side rib cage without shortening the left side much. So this doesn't really look like, a great big huge stretch. It's just a lift, and it's an extension right here in the right side spine. Now let's start to turn a little bit to the left and then reach that right arm across. So we're feeling a big stretch through the mid upper back, releasing those tight muscles. And if you want, you can drop your chin down so we feel a lengthening through the back of the neck. And then let's inhale, back up to neutral. Exhale, release that arm down. And just check in for a second. How does the right side of the body feel different from the left now? So we'll reach the hand to the floor or grab the chair anywhere you'd like. Lift the left arm any amount up. If your shoulder bothers you to do that, you can reach across here. And then let's lengthen the left side spine. So imagine that you've got one of those big stability balls, and you're still pressing against that area with a nice long spine and not slumping and collapsing. Make sure you're still pressing into the left sitting bone. You're not leaning over to that right side pelvis. And then start to twist a little bit, lower the arm and reach across. So a little bit of twist with a little forward flexion in that mid back. Option to drop your chin, stretching the back of the neck. And also we're strengthening the back of the neck because you're using these muscles back here to hold your head up a little bit. So you do have some connection with those muscles. And then we'll come back up on an inhale and exhaling down. Now I'd like for you to sit a little closer to the front edge of your chair, and I'm going to do away with the blocks under the feet because I'm actually going to use them to help support me here. And we'll bend the left knee and extend the right leg straight. So sit up really tall on the edge of your chair, or you're sitting on the floor with the right leg extended. Lengthen the spine and start to hinge right from the hip forward with a straight back, so not hunching and curving, and then bring the hands down to support on your blocks. So if you don't have the blocks, that's okay. This leg here is wonderful to help you support here. I try to stay away from supporting on this leg because it can tend to make us hyperextend that knee. Now, another thing with this stretch is you can grab your yoga strap, go ahead and loop it under the bottom of the foot, and stretch here. So let's take 60 seconds in your hamstring stretch with any variations that you would like. And I like both, using the blocks as well as the strap for different reasons. And then come back to a nice gentle breath, filling the lungs. And you can inhale, exhale through the nose or the nose and the mouth. I'll let you decide what your body needs today. And if you need to bend your right knee a little more to stretch or point your foot down, that releases some of the intensity. That would be great. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then I'm going to walk my hands from the blocks to the thigh and then press up. Let's pull that right leg in. Extend the left leg forward. Sit tall. So really lengthen here and begin to hinge right from the hip crease coming down. Now the beauty of the block is we have 3 different heights that we can work with. This leg for me is a little bit more flexible, so I'm going to flip the blocks and come down a little bit more. Sometimes I try that and I say, oh, I thought I could do that, but let's go back up. And that's okay. Sometimes it's an experiment. We just see what we can do and see how the body responds. Also, we can use that strap, so we're here for a minute. It's funny how that word minute has changed. I think in recent, maybe the last couple of years, I hear people say, they'll talk about if they've not seen a friend in a while, they'll say, it's been a minute. It was interesting. My grandson the other day said, Mimi, what's a moment? And I thought, good question, Alexander. How do I describe what a moment is? Maybe after class we can have that in our after class discussion. How would you explain to an 11-year-old what a moment is? I said it's more than a second, but it's probably less than 5 minutes. I don't know. You say, I'll be back in a moment. That could be a lot of different, depending on the person and what they anticipate that to be. Let's take 2 more breaths. I love questions from children. They're just really amazing. All right, I'm going to plant hands and press up. Just check in for a second. We've got a lunge and a nice hip flexor release that I'm going to use the chair for. So what I'm going to do is turn my body all the way to the right side, and I'm going to sit just with my right hip on the chair. And then I'm going to slide this other leg way back behind. Now you can do this standing, absolutely. You can have any amount of bend in this back knee, but I'd like for the knee to be further back from the hip, because this is what we're opening here. So if it looks like this, no bueno. You're not going to get the hip to stretch. So we want to slide that leg back. We can support here on the front thigh. And then if you've got some space next to you on your chair, put your hand there and let's sweep the other arm up. So you're stretching to the back of the chair. And again, we're trying not to collapse the short side of the rib, but we're just lengthening this right side and we're adding to the stretch in the hip flexor. Last little cue here is our reciprocal inhibition. So if we tense up this glute right here, just tighten it, then your hip flexor will relax. You'll get more of a stretch. Now, another option with this arm up, we can start to turn our body and put your hands on the back of your chair. Ooh, a nice twist here. Doing this on the chair instead of standing up on the floor takes the balance, of course, out of the exercise, but we can really focus on stretching the muscles as well without worrying that we're going to topple over. One more breath. Exhale, and we'll come back to the center. We'll slide this knee back in as we turn back to the front. Ooh, all right, let's move to the other side. Just gonna slide these blocks out of place. So if I'm mirroring you guys, you're on your left hip, left sitting bone, sliding your right leg back. And I have my toes tucked under because I feel a little bit more stable, but you can also turn your toes flat to the floor, which would be harder to do if we weren't sitting in the chair, right? But I like this little stretch for my toes here. Okay, let's reach and side bend. And I'm really holding on to the front of the chair, but you can use your core muscles a little bit more by not grabbing the chair and just using the support of your muscles to hold yourself up here. Now let's tense the glute on that back leg. And we can keep this, or we can start to turn toward the back of the chair, maybe taking both hands behind you. And again, not cranking this or over twisting, just being gentle and kind to our spine. Try to breathe deep down into the belly. Two more breaths. And then walk yourself back around to the front. Take your time. Okay, so on Tuesday, Joyce, you talked about really liking this stretch. We did it standing up. It was a standing happy baby. And I mentioned how wonderful it is in a chair. So let's all try it. So walk your feet out pretty wide in a comfortable width. Have your knees tracking over your feet. And I like to have the blocks for this, but you don't need them. I'm going to put them down pretty low. So let's take a nice big inhale. You can support your hands right here on your thighs and begin to fold forward any amount or bring hands to your blocks or maybe hands all the way down to the floor. So when we do happy baby, we're on our back and we hold on to our ankles and we pull our knees in toward our armpits. We're doing this opposite so we can let gravity assist us to fold forward for this really nice low back stretch and hip opener. And then I just want you to slowly turn your head from the right to the left. So we're letting gravity kind of gently provide traction for our neck by pulling the head toward the earth and then adding rotation. And try to send your breathing into your backside ribs. Sometimes in poses like this, it's hard to breathe into the belly because we're folded so far forward that we don't have a lot of space in our abdomen to send the breath. Let's look one more time to the right and to the left. And as we come back to center, we can place the hands back up on the thighs to climb our body up and lengthen our spine. So let's just bring elbows to goalpost or cactus arms and use the strength of our upper back to pull the elbows back as far as we can. So this is reciprocal inhibition because we're activating the muscles of our upper back to pull, which causes all of this to relax and stretch. Turn your head to the right and just hold it there. Make sure your shoulders aren't creeping up toward your ears. So really engage your lats, pull your shoulder blades down. Let's take 3 breaths. Bring the head back to the center. Let's relax the stretch for a moment by closing the elbows in towards each other or just the wrists. And then open out. Stretch. Sustain that muscular contraction in your back. Turn your head to the left. Hold it there. Drop your shoulder blades down. Hold 3 breaths. We're going to be doing this stretch later in class today in a passive manner, laying on our bellies in a prone position. Bring the head back to the center, relax the stretch for a moment. So when we get to that stretch later in class, if it's not working for you to be laying on your belly, then you are going to come back to your chair and sit and do the stretch this way. Deal? All right, deal. Let's relax those arms, maybe do a couple of shoulder rolls each direction. If you like sitting like this, you can continue to sit this way. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a seated pigeon. So what we're going to do, and I want you to have your yoga strap handy. So we'll bring the feet together, still sitting toward the edge of the chair. Let's bring the right knee up and try to fold the ankle on top of the left thigh. So if you're a no-go for this, you can do various other options here. You won't get the same stretch, but you could cross at the ankle and let the knee open a little bit. So I want you to let your body be your guide here as we do this stretch. Now, because I've had hip replacements, this feels like a good stretch. But if you're not getting enough stretch, you can kind of hold on to the sides of the chair or reach down to your blocks. And we can fold the upper body forward. So let's hold a few breaths here. And then we're going to sit up and use our strap for cow-faced arms. So this can be done on your back. If you're not sitting in your chair and you're down on your mat, just roll over on your back. Cross the ankle over the thigh and hug your knees up into your chest. I feel like I get a really good stretch this way because, again, gravity is assisting as it pulls my upper torso forward toward the floor. Okay, let's come on back up. If you want to get out of this position, you can. Otherwise, just stay here in this position, relax your thigh, and let's bring your yoga strap into your right hand and toss it back over your back. Elbows up. Yeah, elbows up. Oh, elbows up for Canada. Okay, so what we can do here is we can take your fingers and we can push from the front to give yourself a deeper stretch in your triceps, or we can pull from the back, or we can take this left hand and very carefully internally rotate and reach back for the strap behind you. And then try to walk your fingers as closely as you can to each other. Then we can add a little bit of a side bend by increasing the length of the right side waist. That's where your lat attaches and attaches up behind the arm because it pulls the arm down. So we get a nice stretch here for the lat. Can we stay 30 seconds remaining? And if there's anything you want to do with your head, that's fine too. Sometimes in this stretch with the arm up, we have a tendency to drop our head down, and I kind of like to press it back into my wrist or forearm so I can keep my head neutral. But since we're focusing a little bit on neck today, you can also maybe add a look over the left shoulder. Last breath here. And then carefully let the bottom arm slide down first so it almost straightens behind you, and then we'll bring it forward, and then the top arm. Okay, check in for a second, and then we'll prepare for the other side. And expect that it could be different, either in your shoulders or in your hips as we move to this side. And isn't that interesting? Did you see where my other leg was down on the other hip? Not so much on this side. So I don't have as much rotation. And this was the first hip I had done. So that's kind of interesting. But maybe it's taking longer for these muscles to stretch back out. So we can fold forward. It's going to be a tight one for me though. Yeah, I can get my fingertips to the block. Relax and breathe. Now on this stretch, as with any pigeon or modification of it, we want the effort of the stretch to be felt in the hip, not in the knee. And sometimes the knee is compromised here. So if you flex your foot vigorously, these muscles here will tense up, which helps to support the integrity of your knee. So I always like to try to flex the foot, especially on this side because I haven't had this knee replaced yet. And it can definitely cause a problem for me if I twist this knee. Okay, let's take one more breath. And then come up. You can stay seated like that. Retrieve your yoga strap. So in the left hand now, bring it back behind. Elbows up. Now, if you're pretty tight here, your elbows up might look like this, but that's okay. I want you to find your range of motion. We can push it a little bit, pull it back. Did we do a lot for triceps on Tuesday? Mine are very sore, even to touch them. I know we did some push-ups in a twisted position. We must have did a fair amount of triceps. Okay, maybe we bring that hand behind. Find the strap, work the fingers together. And then maybe a little side stretch. Now you can activate the left hip to try to press the knee to open a little more. So I can push it down, firing those external rotators. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. Just about another 20 seconds here. Perhaps you can work the fingers together a little bit more. Or maybe if you have good flexibility, you're not using the strap and you can bind your fingers together. Last breath in. And let's come up and carefully start to straighten the right arm, bring it down, down, and then around. Release the strap. Unfold the leg. And pause. So we're still going to be using our chair for the next stretch. You can also use a wall. So come up to a stand and face your chair sideways on. So if you're sitting on the type of a chair that has a back as well as a seat, I want you to put one hand on the back of the chair, hinge forward, put the other hand on the seat of the chair, then walk your feet back and come into a downward dog position. Now the hand that's up on the back of the chair is going to get a really deep stretch for the lats. So if that's too much, just slide your hand down the back of the chair a little bit at a time until you feel the stretch that's okay for you, or you can have both hands on the seat. But I want to focus on stretching this back arm a little bit more. And then take the hand that's on the seat of the chair off and reach it across to the opposite leg and add a twist. So you're looking underneath the armpit of that top arm. And that one can also be down on the seat of the chair. So I want to make sure this feels okay for your shoulder. But I'm getting a big stretch through the pec. And let's take 3 breaths here. Then we'll come out of the twist. And then we can stay with both arms out to the chair, or we can reach down into a forward bend. So you decide where you'd like the finish to be on this side. And then we'll soften our knees a little bit to come up and walk back in toward the chair. I'm going to move to the other side so I don't have to turn my chair around. So opposite hand now is going to go to the back of that chair, walking the feet back to my down dog. Finding the stretch that works best, so make adjustments. Your feet can be a little wider than hips distance apart as we start to come into our twist. So the hand that's on the bottom of the chair is going to reach across, turn your body, look under the armpit. Unless that's too much of a stretch, so maybe your hand's down on the bottom of the chair, the seat of the chair, and then maybe you're looking over your arm. Three more breaths. And then either both hands out to the chair in any fashion, or finishing in a forward bend. And we'll soften the knees, rise up to stand. And then we'll be using the entire length of our mat for a warrior two. So I'm just going to take the chair and bring it off to the side as we're finished with that prop. All right, so I'm going to take one block over to the left side of my mat, one block over to the right side of my mat, as we're going to be working on some side angle and triangle poses. If you only have one block, you can switch it depending on what side we're currently on. So let's take our feet into a nice wide leg stance. So in the perfect world of yoga, which there really isn't one in my opinion, if you take your arms out, wherever your wrists are, if you drop a plumb line, that's where your ankles should be. For me, maybe in years past I could, but I'm not going to try to worry about getting my legs a little wider. I want you to rely on your sensation, your proprioception of your body to know what's best for your hips. And you can make adjustments for that at any time. So let's start with the left side this time. We so often start with the right. So we're going to pivot the left foot toward the short end of the mat and then slightly pivot the right foot so it's parallel with the other short edge of the mat, coming into our warrior two stance. And then if it feels comfortable, lengthen your arms out, gaze over the left hand. And then let's just flow through warrior two into side angle pose, back to warrior two, and then into reverse or sun warrior. So the lower body position doesn't change at all in this flow. Everything from the pelvis down is very still and solid. The main movement here is lateral flexion of the spine or side bending. And I want you to imagine that you have a wall behind you so that your shoulder blades stay up against that wall as you move through this. So in other words, we're not coming forward like this. That shoulder stays back against the wall. So let's flow through one more of each movement. And then back to our warrior two. If you need a break for your arms, you can relax them down. So all we're going to do is straighten this front leg. So push into the floor. Now both legs are straight. Same thing with the body now. This becomes triangle and reverse triangle. Now for me, I find this is harder to balance. How curious is that? Why is it when the knee is bent, it's easier to balance? I think it's because we have more muscle action on board. When the knee is bent, we have our quad firing and our glute firing to help us support our body. So I'd like to hold our triangle pose for a few breaths, and that's where your block comes in. If you're pretty flexible through the side waist, instead of the hand being here, you can bring the block, and I like to bring it behind my leg, because if I bring it in front and reach, then I'm going to bend over forward. If I bring it behind and reach, then my body's going to be in my side angle position. So if you need to bend this knee, it's okay. It just becomes side angle instead of triangle. So even a little bend is fine. or try to straighten it out. Let's hold about 3 more breaths. Make sure that top shoulder is back against the imaginary wall behind your body. And then you can either turn to look down or neutral, or looking up is more of a balance challenge. 1 more breath. And I didn't mention, but the hand can always be down rather than up or even behind your back. So let's rebend that left knee a little bit. Press yourself up. We'll pivot the left foot to be parallel with the side edge. We'll pivot the right foot to be pointing toward the other side edge. Adjust your stance so you feel comfortable. And then everything from your hip down, really grounded and strong. And we'll flow between our side angle, our warrior 2, and our reverse warrior or sun warrior. And you get to pick how long you linger in each pose, or if you just flow from one to the other without really stopping, just staying nice and dynamic. I'll make sure you've got your rib cage and your shoulder blades on that imaginary wall behind you. Or if you've got a wall at home, go ahead and stand with your back against it and see if you can trace the wall with your shoulder blades. Let's do 1 more each direction. And then if you need a break for your shoulders, relax the arms for a moment. We'll straighten this right leg. So that's the only thing that changed. Shoulders are still back against the imaginary wall, and we'll side bend. And you're just going to your edge on each side. And I should say your comfortable edge. Just a nice dynamic stretch. Make adjustments for shoulder issues because it's not really about your arms, right? We could do this. Good morning, Treacle. It's time for him to go sit looking out the window. Okay, what I'd like to do is to hold our triangle so the leg stays straight. We do our side bend, and I'm going to use my block behind the ankle and support. And again, if you want to bend this knee, it just becomes side angle pose. You can look down, neutral or up. Keep pulling that top shoulder back, revolving the rib cage. 3 more breaths. Try not to let that right leg hyperextend or lock out. Just a little micro bend. Okay, whenever you're ready, soften that front knee. Pull yourself up. Pivot the right foot to face forward. Adjust your stance any way you'd like, and we are going to take a 5-pointed star, reach, and then swan dive into a wide leg forward fold. And I'm going to take my blocks with me as I come down so I can place hands on the blocks. Now, why would I put my hands on the blocks if I can go deeper than that and bend my elbows anyway? I like to do a down dog stretch here with my blocks. So I'm going to take them and reach them way out so my arms are straight and let my chest sink and drop.
Now, if this is feeling uncomfortable, remember we did that seated happy baby. You could come down and sit on the edge of your chair and do that movement, but maybe try to straighten your legs out more so you would be supported by the chair. Two more breaths. Okay, I'm going to walk my blocks back in underneath my arms. And we'll take a twist to the right. So I'm going to leave my left hand on the block right under my shoulder. And then I'm rotating up to the right side. Now, when I did that, I automatically felt a deeper stretch in my left inner thigh and groin. Maybe you're experiencing that as well. Hand can be on your hip or behind your back as well. And then let's lower down out of that side. I'm bringing my right hand to the block right underneath my shoulder, twisting to the left this time. And there's that deeper stretch in my right inner groin. Two more breaths. And lower that arm down. And then you can bend your knees a little bit, maybe bring your hands right to your thighs and walk yourself up. Good. Okay, I mentioned at the beginning of class that we're going to do a prone stretch like our cactus arms. If you feel like coming down onto your belly is not going to be comfortable for this, for whatever reason, I want you to have a seat back in your chair. Otherwise, you'll either need 2 blocks or what's nice and comfy is 2 pillows. So I'm going to use the pillows. Those will go under my elbow forearm area so that that position is higher than my chest when I get down to the floor. So we'll be there. And then I need something to place my forehead against. So I'm going to use a hand towel and I'm just going to roll it in a little bit of a roll and place that up against where my forehead will be. Now, this might not be comfortable. I want this stretch to be comfortable. So please modify and adjust whatever you might need. Another option, since you'll be laying on your belly, is a little bit of a rolled up blanket for your ankles to be on top of, so you can have a little bend in your knees, or your legs can be straight. Okay, here we go. Come on down. So I've got the blanket behind my ankles. I'm going to lower myself down and place my arms out onto the pillows. And then I'm going to bring my forehead down to that little towel roll. So again, you can do this sitting in a chair. Lots of options, but I just want you to relax and stretch through your shoulders. Now, your arms can be either up a little higher or they can be down a little more. So I want you to adjust to the position of your arms so you have a stretch, but it's what? Comfortable. So I'd like to do this either with your head continued to be forward or with a few seconds or a few breaths with the head turned each direction. So I'm going to turn my head to the left so that my right ear is down to the floor, but it's not touching the floor because I have that little hand towel rolled up kind of right under my temple area. So this is really comfortable for my face. I don't have my ear being squished. My jaw is not pressed into the mat. I can talk freely, but I'm getting a really nice passive stretch for my neck. Now try to slow your breathing down. Three more breaths. Then use the strength of the back of your neck to pick your head up a little bit. Turn it back to the front and lay your forehead back down. Maybe you need to make an adjustment with your arms in a little different position. I'm going to actually slide them up a little higher. And then let's turn our head to the right. And I'll move this pillow so you can see my head a little bit more. Now this is a fairly intense stretch here, so perhaps you're just halfway. You might have a little bit more of your forehead down to the floor. And then slow your breathing. Relax your jaw. 2 more breaths. And pick your head up a little bit. Turn it back to the front. And then we'll slide the palms of the hands right underneath the shoulders here so that you can press yourself up. Now I want you to squeeze your elbows close to the waistline to protect your shoulders. Spread your fingers. Take a nice big deep breath in. Then exhale and push. Walk your knees in and take a child's pose or a cat stretch. Now, a traditional child's pose, we bring the arms next to the sides of the body. If you have good range of motion in knee flexion, you can drop your hips all the way down to your heels. If, like me, you're not quite there yet because of arthritis and joint replacements, your bum can be up any amount. So I want to practice one way of getting up off the floor. There are many, but I'd like for you to come back up to hands and knees. And then tuck your toes underneath so that you're on the balls of the feet and push yourself up. This is bear pose. Begin to walk your hands toward your feet. Forward bend with a big bend in the knees. Then roll your spine up, one vertebra at a time, until you come all the way up. Let's find a nice strong mountain pose. Now let's do a slow breath of joy. We began class with this in a chair. So we'll inhale once, arms forward. Inhale again, arms side. Inhale again, arms up. Then exhale. Inhale forward, side, up, exhale. 3 more. 2. 1. Let's come to Samastiti, balance tension.
as we close our practice, honoring our hard work today, the dedication that we have to the health of our spirit, mind, and body, the dedication we have to the LisaBug community, and the light that is in my heart honors the light in the hearts of each of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for the honor and pleasure to guide you through this practice today. If you can stay along for a chat, I would love it. Let's get Jitsi shut off. I've been trying to time it a little bit better so that our entire classes are on record. All right, stop recording.